I did this in Cuddington.
You do it.
Spinach was great, Anthony.
Oh, good.
Oh, Manisha, I grew it.
You want to get this whole screen, aren't you?
Yeah. That's better.
Take it away.
Are we live?
Yeah.
Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Chearsley Parish Council meeting on Monday, the 16th of November, once again remotely via video conference. And for those people that are joining us via Zoom and the link, then a big welcome to you as well. I think we better just start by seeing if there's any parishioners' questions, Helen. So I don't know if anybody has had any notifications.
Did you just have an email in, Nick, from Derek Allen about a muddy footpath?
Oh yeah, I copied you into that one. Derek and Jackie Allen from the Old Bakery wanted to record the pretty treacherous conditions between Church Lane and beyond the railway line. So that path that goes up the steps across their fields, and obviously across the railway line. I mean, we walked it a couple of days ago and obviously noted that with the fencing as it is now on the field before, just after the railway line on the way to Notley Abbey, that has been put in, and it's pretty treacherous, particularly at the double gates right and left just before you enter the copse towards Notley Abbey, so Notley Barn. I'm not sure what we can do about it. I've got a call out with Rosemary to talk about some other things in the next few days. Whether we could find a way, if you're listening, Derek and Jackie, to encourage them to bring some form of standing there with wood chippings. I'm not sure what we can do with the amount of rain that we've had, but Derek and Jackie just wanted this registered, that they were concerned for the walkers on that section, that it was pretty treacherous. I'll report back if I get any more updates when I speak to Rosemary.
It's obviously very unfortunate. It's so narrow there. If the, at some stage in the future the fence could be widened, it would actually just give, a further area for the traffic to go on, as opposed to such a compacted area. I think that's the problem.
Yeah.
Anthony, I don't know if you've got any comments to make on that.
Well, yeah, I mean, the right to way improvement plan, I was looking at that, and the council, the county council basically say that as long as it's two meters wide, that's all they will specify it has to be. Ideally they don't want barbed wire, which obviously we have got. And I don't know if they could replace the barbed wire at the top, because obviously if somebody fell over or something, they'd either grab that first, or they might hit their face against it or something like that. But, technically they are within the guidelines of what the.
I think I can add that into the mix, Anthony. Although somebody did mention to me on another farm that as long as the barbed wire was on the other side of the post, so in the field side of the post.
Yeah, that's the other bit. Yeah.
Then that was okay. But I get the point. If it's a young child or something, then they're going to grab whatever's at that height.
Yeah, I mean, it does conform with that. It is that the wire is on the other side of the post. From the top.
Yeah. I think there's a difference between complying with the law, which it clearly does, and just common sense and safety.
Yeah, I mean, the point's well taken, and if you put me down on that point, Helen, to give some feedback once I've had a chance to catch up with Rosemary.
And Anthony, can you put anything down? Could we request something be put down, like sand or something, to actually make it a bit more stable?
Well, the trouble is then you get to get into sort of putting down hard standing or bitumen, and then it becomes, the next complaint would be it's too urbanised.
Wood chippings and things are probably the only sensible stuff you can get on, and an occasional bit of hardcore perhaps. But
yeah, I agree with Paul. I was talking to some of the guys at Gardner at Wadston Manor, and went up and just looked at the path that you walk from the information gate where you park your car. You can now walk up the path to the manor with all the lights on the left-hand side, and that's what they've done. They've actually put wood chippings the whole way up. And I have to say, generally, it works well. He said the only problem with it is that if you get, again, a low-lying part that is susceptible to water holding, he said you're constantly literally having to relay wood chippings in that area because they just go into mush. But the overall path looked really good, and it was very in keeping, I think, with the countryside.
Yeah, they use that on the path that goes on the I've forgotten what's the name of it, to Aylesbury. The first part of it is, before it goes onto tarmac, is that
the Greenway.
The Greenway, thank you.
Yeah.
I did that last Monday, and it's actually quite a pleasant walk through there, actually. But yeah.
Okay.
Something's done. Yeah.
I'll follow up with that and see how far we got, because I've also got Anthony for what everyone's thinking, but I've got another chat with her about the public footpath that runs from the churchyard to the gate before you turn right down the steps into Church Lane, which is currently not fenced. And we've had some difficulties with some dogs off leads in that field. And quite rightly, I think Rose is quite worried about the poo, if you like, that they leave behind. And if the cattle, the sheep, particularly the cattle, eat it, it can cause all sorts of disease and problems. So try and wrap it all up in one, I think. Okay, any other correspondence at all?
Yeah, just on Derek and Jackie, they've also requested we give consideration to some curbing alongside Stockwell to protect it. Obviously, there's been some damage there, which is a bit unfortunate, but equally, that bank is quite vulnerable down there. So just like to record the fact they have requested, if we're looking at future curbing, that be given consideration, and bear in mind the sort of historic nature of the Stockwell actually might be worth consideration.
Yeah, I think that's a good shout, Paul. And I think we should add that as one of our sort of A or B priorities maybe for the list when John comes on, because we're not talking about a big distance here, are we?
No.
But it would make an enormous difference. And I know that Jill did try and contact Jackie and Derek without success when she saw the big Range Rover had decided to park in that verge, and tried to knock on the door, but there was no one in, I don't think, Jill's.
Yeah, they ran the back of
the drive. So people were driving round the car onto the verge. That's what the problem was.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So if we add that in, then Helen, for some action on the Stockwell, probably you're looking at about what, 5 or 10 meters, Paul, something like that. 10 meters of distance.
I guess it's probably that maximum. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Any other correspondence? Although
there was a note from Mike Haybrook requesting support for any support we can give to lobbying Councillor Naylor, etc., the local Bucks councillors to upgrade the cycle route between Aylesbury and Cuddington. And I think you'd already said you'd support that, Nick.
I've actually dropped a note to Naylor about that, and I had a response today. He's absolutely up the wall, as you'd expect, and he's asked if I can do it. I've got the details in front of me, but he's asked if I could liaise, because I mentioned that we're seeing Colin Walford this week, and he suggested that I tried to talk to Colin about it and get it. He said, actually, if we get it on Fix My Street page, and also copy in his compliance lady. I can't remember what her name is, but I'll let you know what the details are later when I find them, Helen. And the other thing he mentioned, which probably John, who else is involved, the community board would be very interested in doing that, probably finding some funding for that. This is Elaine Hassel, John
Yeah,
H.
yeah.
And they have a pot of money that will go towards those sort of things. So I think this is a question of maybe having a chat with John Lewis later, John, and maybe finding a way to submit something, Keith, to the community board. Anyway, I've raised the profile, including Clive Harris, including Paul Irwin, and a couple of other guys who are now going to get involved in the Stone and Wadston parish called, as you know, Cameron Branston.
Great.
But anyway, yeah, so it's been elevated.
Great.
Any more at all? Can't find for the life of me the person I'm looking for, but there you go. Okay, if there's nothing more, apologies for absence. Well, John should be with us. He was taken up on another call.
I'm here, Nick.
Oh, John's there. I can't see.
Just come in. Yes.
Oh, hello, John. Did you get the bit about the a community board? And
Yes, I just came in on the tail end of it just then.
well, I can fill you in later, but
I was going to say I might speak to you later to get the details.
yeah. I mean, to be honest, it's not within our remit as such, but it's just another example, I think, of where we can try, and if we know somebody or we know a route through, or we can put some people in contact with somebody, you know, Mike's raised a good point. It's a good cycleway, and if we can take care of it and do our bit, then great.
Yeah, certainly.
And I think the other thing that Michael highlighted is that he's formed a group called Chearsley Cyclists, which has quite a significant membership. So there is a group to be listened to within our village. And I know it was really on the back of that he raised it with the councillors, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry, the note was from Nick this morning, actually. Morning, Nick. Can you log this on? Can you log it? Help me enormously if you could log this on to Fix My Street, or follow up with your local area technician, Colin Walford. I know you're meeting, and our customer compliance officer, Zoe Ford.
Oh, right. Yeah, I think I've got her email somewhere. Yeah.
And interestingly enough, on the whole cycle thing and the cycle thing that I said, I had quite a good chat with David Truesdale, who's the chairman of, amongst other things, he's the chairman of Hadnam Parish Council. I think he's suddenly realised what he's got on his plate these days, because it's literally a full-time job, and he's now got 2.5 clerks, and I'm not bloody surprised given all the amount of work going on over there. But he has let me have privately, which I can share privately with 1 or 2 people who are involved in the parties, a very interesting report from Sustrans. Sustrans are people that basically look at ways to improve pathways, bridleways and cycleways.
Oh, right.
And this is the project they've got underway with Hadnam to Tame.
Okay.
And he did, so I'll circulate that through to you to have it's a really interesting document. My God, they've done some research and mapping and goodness knows what else and recommendations. But he did say that if we could show some interest and possibly a small contribution at some stage, they could get involved with us from the Hadnam to Chearsley sort of scenario. So maybe I ought to talk to Mike about that as well, but I'll circulate it for people to read. but it is an interesting document, and David's very keen on working with us as well.
Super.
So no apologies now for absence. Declarations of interest. Do we have
Just Robert Parks, apologies.
Oh, yeah, Robert's on the mend. I hope he's listening, or I hope he's looking on YouTube, because I've had a couple of good bits of banter with him, and I'm pleased to say he's in good heart, but he needs to now rest for a while. Informed me he can't have a glass of wine for 3 months, which I feel very sorry for him, but good news is he's on the mend. And we've got his finance report, so that's all good. Approval of minutes from the 19th of October. Can I have a proposer and a seconder?
Proposed.
Second.
Right.
Thank you. And then matters arising. Helen?
Right, so the first one was for myself to circulate the email regarding the CCTV, where Paul Davies at Long Crendon was suggesting that we might want to go and visit UK Security Group, but I guess that'll kind of be picked up later on this evening when we talk about CCTV.
Yeah, I should just warn everybody, we will get Paul or a representative from his company, who will join us at some stage, just to give a very brief update of what it is they may or may not be able to do for us, with an invitation at the end of it, just to extend to those who would like to go to see the headquarters, as to what is already happening with Long Crendon and other villages supported by the police, both in the Tame area and in Wadston. So it's just an informal couple of minutes, just to update people what's possible. Okay.
Right, the next one was to confirm that the invoice has been sent for the Vale of Aylesbury Housing Trust community contribution. That has now been sent.
Right.
Then the next one's about the Stockwell. Paul to arrange for more vegetation to be cleared.
Yeah, well, I think two parts. Actually, inside Stockwell, you may have noticed it's been cleared a bit. Myself and my French friend Louis got our waders on and did some clearance there. And Tom Audley, on his last visit, has done some more cutting around there. And I must say, it's starting to come round now. And I'll cover verge matters a bit later on, but hope everyone agrees it's starting to look a bit better, a bit clearer there now. We can start to see where Stockwell is at last.
Great stuff.
But work in progress.
Hey.
And then the next one was for Anthony Adams to update us about the Haddenham Safe Walking and Cycling Group's request for signs indicating the footpath route from Chearsley to Haddenham.
Yeah, I spoke to Brian Bowman, as the guy who sent us the email. Effectively, yeah, he's trying to encourage people to use that other footpath, which goes, it's actually not our footpath, because once it goes over the bridge, it's not us, because they've now got a right-of-way access across the, or down the side of the airfield. So he's trying to encourage people to use that footpath, and then you can walk down the side of the airfield and then to Pegasus Way. And I think he's saying that you can then walk through another field towards the station. But his main thing is he wants us to try and get a sign up to say that you can get to Haddenham that way. But I said we try and think about putting one underneath the one we've already got, which is to Covington. That I haven't found out how we can do that, but that's about the best we can come up with, I think.
Okay. And do you know, Anthony, in the wider sense of footpath routes generally around the village, we have said from time to time they're getting a bit old and tired and need sprucing up. Do we know who we should speak to try and just get that to happen?
Are you talking about the sort of styles, or are you talking about the actual paths?
No, the actual signage. So, you know, the post.
Oh, the signage. Okay.
Yeah.
I think the signage is down to Bucks County Council, so that would be to Alistair. So I can, you know, if you want. I mean, I know that we've changed the one at the top. We did that today. Nigel's removed that one so it doesn't, you know, get in the way of the actual gate.
Yeah, no, I think that looks great, and I think that whole, we had to move the sign. Whoever put it there in the first place was ridiculous.
Yeah.
It was in the middle of you going through a gate. There's a pole in front of you, but I think he's done a great job actually on that gate and that fence and moving the pole. So now look, I meant more the signs that sit on the top. Some of them are a bit hard to read and a bit,
You mean like on a post? A finger sign.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be down to the council. I mean, if you can highlight the ones that you think need doing, I'll certainly.
Well, okay. Well, between us, I'm sure when we're walking around or anybody else, if we could let us know, Anthony, drop a note to Anthony. I'll do the same. I just think it'd be nice before the summer next year, spring, summer, to get those just spruced up a bit.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Anthony. Yeah, and that gate looks great. It looks really good, and Adam's done that fence, and apparently I think he's looking to grow some foliage and stuff, and just really make it look really nice. So it's good news.
Is anything happening, Anthony, on the? I thought I raised it last time. I'm trying to think it was in the meeting or out the meeting, but the stile that goes from Paul's land to
the Haybrook's land,
Rose's land.
Yeah. Well, basically, I think Nick has spoken to Rose about that one.
Yeah, I've also emailed Rose because I've got an idea on it. Because there's actually two stiles there. There's one on my side which is redundant because you can walk round it, and I don't intend to make it so you can't.
Right.
I've got an idea on the stile that's on her side, rather than replace it with one of those clangy metal ones. But I haven't heard back. So, well, if you could just leave that with me to chase up on, and I'll speak to Anthony obviously to discuss as well.
Okay.
So I'm assuming then we're looking at replacing the stars with some form of gate, whether it's clangy or woody or whatever.
Yeah.
So people can go through with their dog and walk.
I think it's much easier replacing it with a gate rather than a stile, actually.
Yeah. I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you'll stay in touch with Anthony. Brilliant. Okay. Okay, thanks, Anthony. Brilliant. Thank you, Ellen.
So the next one is the village signposts, the pedestrian signage. So I think, Nick, you'd written to Colin Wolford explaining what we wanted to do, and you were going to update us at this meeting.
Well, yeah, I've just had Friday, I had a good note from Colin, actually. He sent me a note basically saying he can see no reasons as to why we can't replace the one outside the Parries on the little quadrangle there, and sees no reason why we can't put on those some signs saying Village Hall, pub or cricket club or whatever, and also doesn't see any reasons why it couldn't be shaped in the same way as the one opposite with the black and white villagey type stripes. So he sent me a form, scheme request brief, as they do in these political bloody quangos. Scheme overground, background, scope of work. So I will fill this form out and send it off and see what action we get.
Okay, right. And then the next one is, I think, Nick, you were going to ask Clive Harris to join this meeting.
Yeah, no, Clive won't be joining the meeting tonight. He's actually at another Conservative meeting and sends his apologies. I have to say Clive has been brilliant. I mean, I've spoken to him pretty much every other day in the last week or two about things, including places like the Cuddington-Chearsley Road, Cuddington-Chearsley Road, things that I'm trying to also support with the adult social care in Buckinghamshire, which I've been sort of doing some work with a lady called Jane McBean, who's the chair there of the Health and Adult Social Care Select Committee. So he's very interested, and he still remains committed to Chearsley, but his time has all been taken up. And I think unless it's absolutely critical, I sort of won't try and bother him if I don't need to. Does that sort of make sense?
That's, yeah.
Okay.
All right, so the next one is an action point to organise a clean-up around the horse chestnut tree, which will need about 4 volunteers.
Yeah, all the horse chestnut leaves are off now, so if we could get a gang of people together to clean up the debris from around the tree and burn it, that would remove the number of moss actually out next year.
Okay. So,
I guess we could do that in twos, or
Yeah,
well,
it's a bit
essentially,
awkward because a lot of the debris is on the road. So I don't know if we need some traffic management. It's not just the verge surrounding the tree.
I think in practical terms, I think we can manage this. And it just does mean it needs 3 or 4 of us with wheelbarrows and some rakes and some brushes. And I'm happy to commit myself to that this weekend. But
me too.
I mean, when we lost the bough of the tree recently, and there was a hell of a mess everywhere, we managed to absolutely, by wearing some high vis clothing and got some traffic cones knocking around here somewhere which I can get. I'm sure we can make that happen.
Yeah,
but we just need 3 or 4 of us. Really, 4 of us would be great with wheelbarrows, a brush, stiff brush, and a rake. I reckon we could do that and take it up to the allotment and put it on the bonfire. It'll be done in an hour or 2 max.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to put my name in the hat for Saturday.
Me also.
Me too.
Me too.
Sorry, so Keith, sorry.
Yeah. I was saying me too. Yeah.
Katie, Nick B, Ian H, John Howard, thank you. And if anybody else does, so we say what, 10:30 or something?
Yeah.
Is that this Saturday?
Yeah. Can you make it, Martin?
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, that gives us basically 5 folks, and I reckon with 3, 4, 5 barrows, we'll soon knock that on the head. And if we say 10:30, and we'll just get it up there and put it on the fire and get it burned when it's dry. I mean, there's no point in trying to go down the lanes and that. I mean, you know, it'd be nice to put the word out to other people, but I think if we can keep that key area free and tidy, I think that's a big improvement. And also, John L, it's got to coincide soon, surely, with the works being done on those granite sets.
Yeah, do you want to just quickly take an update on that at this point? It's out of sequence, but
Just a quick interrupt. We've got Paul Davis in the waiting room. Shall I let him in?
Does anybody have any problems with? He's the chairman of Long Crendon Parish Council.
No problem.
no problem.
Okay. Just welcome him.
So he's just connecting to audio, Nick, if you can't see him. He's in.
Good evening,
Good
Paul.
evening. Good evening, Nick.
Evening.
Paul, we're just going through a couple of bits and bobs, but if you can bear with us for a few minutes, and then we'll get you included into the agenda fairly rapidly. So I appreciate you joining us.
Okay.
We may not be able to see you. I don't know if people can, because we've got quite a few people on the call.
I think anyone on the PC can see Paul, no problem.
Yeah, just me. So that's fine. Paul, I can't see your lovely face, but I'll definitely hear you.
Okay.
So if you can just bear with us a few minutes and we'll get you in.
Okay.
So you had to put up with a couple of things about leaf collection now.
Okay.
So 5 is 10:30, horse chestnut. Okay, great.
Nick, you were just asking about the curbing. Do you want to take that now?
Yeah, go on.
So I had a couple of communications with the company. One was about 4 weeks back saying, sorry, they hadn't been in contact. And by the way, had we got permission or the necessary go-ahead from County Council.
Yeah.
So I simply responded saying, I thought that's your job as part of the quote. I didn't know whether it was or not, but I made that assertion. It all then went silent again until just today, funnily enough, when I had another call from them. I forget the guy's name now. I was in the car, so I didn't make a note, but he's their newly appointed project manager, he tells me, who's been given this job to move forward. And he promised he's going to be emailing me details at any time. So who knows, we might get some movement on it.
Brilliant. Thanks, John.
Okay, Nick, and I think we've got UK Security Group in the waiting room as well. So
yeah, Paul can just brief them. Can we just go through, let's do these matters arising first.
I think there's only 2 other items left.
Yeah.
So Nick to circulate the neighbourhood plan for Cuddington to the councillors.
Didn't everyone get that?
Yeah.
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 I think so.
And then
Yeah.
the final one was a point from parishioners' question time regarding having smaller bin lorries in the lanes so that they don't get churned up. And I think, Nick, you were down to investigate that.
Yeah, and I've done absolutely nothing about that because until I read the minutes again, I hadn't realised my name was against it.
So I'll put that all forward, shall I?
Yeah, but I'm not. I need to probably just think this through with a couple of my colleagues as to what companies I need to speak to. I mean, I'm assuming it's the oil companies and the, you know, I'm not sure about the waste disposal people looking at how they collect, whether they can get a small lorry because of efficient. I need to just think about that. So just put that down for me to concentrate.
Okay. That's it for matters arising.
Okay, thank you for that.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I've got, there was reference in matters arising to drains, and just to report that we've made contact with Colin Wolford. There was a problem in Lower Green Lane, and as Nick has already referred to, Colin Wolford is coming to Chearsley on Thursday morning, specifically to have a look, talk through the drains and what action we can take, because the problem still persists. And that will obviously be an opportunity to discuss with Colin 1 or 2 other things as well, but that will happen on Tuesday morning. So that's the follow-up that we've done. There's been a fair amount of emails flying around, but we're hoping to make some progress on Thursday morning when Colin.
So this
Okay.
Thursday.
This Thursday at
10:30.
10:30, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll meet down at Anthony's and that way.
Yes, yeah, the bottom of Lower Green Lane. Yeah.
Okay, I presume he'll have the coffee and bacon butties ready.
John, will that cover all the drains? Obviously, there's some serious ones.
Well, we've only raised that specific issue with him, but I was going to use the occasion to talk through generally about drains, in theory, commitment from the council to, they do major roads every year apparently, and minor roads every 3 years, but we haven't seen a lot of evidence. And I think my instruction from you all was just to get, before we start planning any more coherent approach to drain problems, and we do get them. In fact, what if I could suggest, if anybody is aware of any drain issues that need attention, let me know ahead of Thursday's meeting. And but I was going to raise it as a general point, really, because you know, we did a lot of work last year, didn't we, Nick? And
which we paid for.
Exactly. And you know, we shouldn't be paying for what we don't need to, but so it was getting absolute clarity on what you know, what the council is and how best we can move forward on a general basis. But please let me know if there are any specific issues around your own homes with drainage problems, then let me know, and perhaps we can.
All right, John, thank you very much.
As well.
I'm going to just jump into the agenda a bit here because of a courtesy. I obviously welcome Paul Davis, and also I believe UK Security are with us. Paul, would you just like to give us a brief? The point of this exercise is to give us a flavour, and I mean a flavour in terms of brevity, of what you and involved in, and the company security and how it's impacted particularly Long Crendon. And then I think you were maybe thinking of an invitation if people wanted to take it up, come and visit headquarters. Am I right?
Yeah, that's correct. So it started off really since the fire at the butcher's in Long Crendon, which totally destroyed the building. And the footage that the local shopkeeper had on his CCTV was not substantial enough to take to court. It wasn't clear. Although he picked the person out, that's not good enough in a court of law. So that prompted us to get thinking about getting some modern stuff in. A UK security group have already done the village centre, which I operate. And after several break-ins there, they'd come and put a new system and an alarm system in for us. And since then, we've had no attempts. So we followed that through over 2 phases. Firstly, to do around the pavilion, which was always getting lights smashed, and it's petty crime like doors, handles broken, guttering smashed off. So we proceeded to do that, and it links up. So now as you walk down the high street, all of the entrance to the village centre, the library is now linked to it as well, because I understand they've joined UK Security Group. And then right up to the pavilion and all across the park and the secure network in the children's play area. And then also there's a big roaming camera in the square covering all the shop frontage and the main crossing. And we found it a big advantage having it in there. It's helped police solve the following crimes: armed robbery, physical assault, burglaries, theft of farm vehicles, antisocial behaviour. I mean, obviously we can't, as a parish, can't see it, but they can go straight directly to UK Security Group and get whatever footage they need. I mean, sometimes we have to pay for it, but it's what you do as a community to try and help do that. I mean, we've had an underage child go missing, and she was found on the cameras, which was quite relieving. So whereas the big visible cameras are a deterrent for the petty criminals, the ANPR shows all the vehicle movements right throughout the village. We don't publicise where they are, but it monitors all vehicle movements and people, and right down to the allotments. I mean, the last phase was quite extensive because there was no power there, so that was a little bit tricky, but we've got 2 9-metre columns now with rotating cameras, which there's no drug dealing. Well, put it this way, from having complaints probably 6 times a week, we haven't had any since they've been in place. So we're quite chuffed with that.
Yeah. Well, as you can imagine, Paul, we've had conversations, and also, with some of the team from the UK Security. And it's a really emotive one. I get that, because, people often think, the first thing they think, oh, this is Big Brother, and do we really need it? And it's only when I started speaking funny to our neighbourhood police to find how much that they were on board with it and supportive of it in Wadston and Tame, that it started making me think that the way the world is going, unfortunately, the expansion of housing and industrial units and you name what, it's sort of, I see it as a protection to the community to a degree. But I am mindful that there are many people, I don't know, you experience this in Long Crendon or elsewhere, but there's people in Chearsley that do see it as the Big Brother, and it's trying to find a way of getting this balance between, no, it's not, and it's here to, make things more secure for everybody, but in a way that doesn't feel like it's right in their face, sort of thing.
I mean, we did have an element of that. I had somebody tell me they were going to shoot the cameras out, and I just said to them, if you're not doing anything wrong, why are you worried about it? Oh, I don't like people watching me. I said, but it's not people watching you. It's a set of trained professionals in a closed environment. Nobody else knows what's going on. And if you're behaving yourself, but the other thing is as well, if your mother's crossing the road and she gets run over, you're glad of it then. So we did have an element of it, I must say, but I mean, that's gone away now. And they've actually seen that the cars aren't gathering so much around the tennis courts late at night. Well, if they are, we've had no complaints about it recently.
It is interesting because one of our residents, funny enough, as you know, I think for those people who know him, remain nameless, but he was driving into Long Crendon from the Chearsley direction, and as he approached the road crossing there between the Indian restaurant and the shop, he witnessed this car. There's a guy coming across the footpath, so the crossroad, zebra crossing in like a wheelchair, and he accelerated, shot to the right and round this guy and then back towards the train. God. And it was reported by this individual in Chearsley. Police went and picked up the video and they went and visited the individual concerned. So, you know, there are times when you think, I guess, like, why we're putting in dash cams these days and rear cams and God knows what else. You're trying to look after not only yourself, but other people as well. And is there any questions at all from the councillors or team here today?
Is the primary use of your CCTV for petty crime, or what about sort of a driver behaviour? What are your experiences there?
So,
most of what you've described relates to sort of petty crime.
Yeah, well, and yes, initially, as I say, I've only been on the parish council for 3 years, and initially, once the fire was in the butchers and it totally destroyed that, it wasn't until we started to look at the footage and the quality was poor. Then we looked at the pavilion footage, and you found that none of it was submissible in a court of law. Not in today's, what they ask for today is quite clear images. You can't just say, oh, that's Joe because I know him. So that's the sort of petty crime of it. But see, the trouble is we don't always get to hear all of the benefits of it because as a parish council, none of us are licensed to look at the footage. So, you know, UK Security Group may ring us and say, the police want this footage, we're passing it on because we have a legal obligation to do so. And I know that once or twice there's been vehicles that have travelled from outside of our area and they've come through Crendon, and I know it's helped them pick up a pattern of where that vehicle has travelled. So that's what I understand has been helpful from that side of it.
Keith?
Yeah, so we've just installed a speed display which also records data, and obviously that's anonymized. But for example, if we reported that, you know, we've had some vehicles come through at say 73, 75 miles an hour at a rough time, we could pass that on to the police, so they could then potentially correlate that presumably with a vehicle going through on the CCTV and at least do some follow-up. You know, it may be connected with crime outside the area if they're speeding. But I think that's one of the questions I certainly had, you know, looking at the sort of road safety aspect. And we've had a few near misses with, you know, because especially at night, we've got unlit roads. And we've had a few near misses with parishioners. So again, you know, God forbid that something should actually happen. But again, that could be reported, and I would assume the police can then do the correlation and look, you know, given the time, with anything on the CCTV footage. Yeah.
The other thing as well that we found helpful, a couple of times we've had some annoying incidents that have happened, vandalism that keeps reoccurring. We contact UK Security Group directly, and then they download the footage and they pass it on to the police, because they will only download it if it's submissible. So that's probably for us, it's saving a bit of police time. But I mean, you'll get people ring up and say, "Oh, did you get that? Did you get that?" I mean, you're going to get that. I mean, but as I say, we've just, from our point of view, we've just found it very helpful with the way we've got it linked. Pretty much all of the main square, where the children play, where the football is, where we've had incidents of fighting at football, we've had all that submitted. So where all that is, it's all linked through, and we found it very helpful. You can watch where the kids go, what they're doing at 3 a.m. when we're all asleep. So we found that very interesting, because there's a lot of night activity when we're fast asleep.
Paul, just a quick question, probably linked to John Howard's one. I mean, one of the problems we have in the village at the Horse Chestnut intersection, which you'll probably know well, the amount of HGVs that misbehave on that junction is quite extraordinary in terms of manoeuvres that go on. And often the only way we can bring them to book, if you like, is by identifying them by photograph and maybe registration number. And if we're lucky enough, we've been able to do that because someone's been alert, they've whizzed their camera out and taken shots. And then by contacting the company, we get varying degrees of results. Could we be licensed, or could we ask, if we had this system in that area, could we ask the security group to say, if there are known shenanigans going on, they're recording with dangerous moves at that junction, could we be then informed, or could they then inform the police as a standard default position?
What we do annually, we renew it annually. We pay for a block of what they call downloads. So it's normally, I think it's £65 plus VAT for each download that they spend time to put together on a case, and they get the crime number for it and they attach it to it as a file, and then they upload it straight to CPS, because that's how they're linked. Now, we've agreed with them, you can buy a block of 10 and it's discounted. So whether they see it happen and they think it's dangerous enough, I mean, you know, that's down to you as a parish. But I mean, bearing in mind as well, if they see something that's dangerous, the police can just gather the information anyway. We went into great depths when we actually put these in, because we had councillors that were saying, well, what are we going to do, you know, if the police want this and we don't want them to have it because we're having to pay for the down. The police can just take that recorder anytime they want. So it's in your interest to give them consent. And why wouldn't you? But we had one councillor saying, but why are they not paying for it? Crime's crime. You just want to stop it. And once people know it's being stopped, it won't all go, but you get a lot of it that does narrow down because they know they're being watched.
Anthony, you wanted to come in?
So no, I will, Nick, if I can.
John did.
Please.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Probably a question for our colleague from UK Security, but you may want to answer, Paul. I'm interested to know, I mean, we've heard a bit about what UK Security, or how you work. So we've heard if the police ask for something, you give it to them. If the parish council sees something that they think is of interest, they can ask you to pass on stuff to the police. Can you expand a bit on exactly what you do with all this stuff? Is that the extent of it? Do you do more with it? Where does the information end up going? How long do you keep it? There's a whole raft of questions like that either you could address now or send us some information on it, maybe.
Sorry, could you just repeat the question again for me? My signal's really poor, considering I'm so high tech. I can't seem to push a good signal through a mobile.
Okay, sorry, it was quite a long question. I better cut it down a bit for the second show. So essentially, I was asking, what in detail do you do, and at whose request do you do it, and how long do you keep information, and where does it go?
Okay, so if for example, Long Crendon, we have a CCTV, very large CCTV recorder held within the village in a very secure location. That's where CCTV footage is stored. if we have a request from Thames Valley Police or the Parish Council, we will review that footage. We will make a decision as a licensed body whether that footage is submittable. If we can't get facial IDs and we can't make it an ID, we will not submit it, because that's wasting police time, and two, that's wasting parish funds.
Can I just interrupt a second on that before we lose the point? Does
Sure.
that mean that you can't do that with a vehicle that's driving in a dangerous manner as well? I mean, you mentioned just surely if something's driving in a dangerous manner and we get the name of the lorry and the registration number, is that not submissible?
Yeah, no, it is. No, it is definitely. It's crime. If we have a license plate and we have evidence of foul play, yeah, certainly,
Okay.
we can retrieve that. The scenario that you mentioned, Nick, of Long Crendon with the gentleman in the wheelchair,
Yeah.
I submitted that footage myself,
Yeah.
and it did make interesting viewing. So yes, we dealt with the case from the start of the email right the way through to it going to the Thames Valley Police.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
So do you review stuff in live real time, or do you only go back to recordings when somebody asks you to?
It depends on the councils. We cover, I don't want to steer off track too much, but we cover a huge amount of parish councils across Buckinghamshire and Oxfordshire. Some ask us to monitor certain areas, and some ask for simply data retrieval. If we have somebody in our control room on a night shift and we feel it's beneficial to have, for example, Long Crendon Park on a designated screen, then that's what we will do for an evening. But it all depends on the independent council as to what they want to pay for. Monitoring isn't cheap, and the reason for that is because we're proactive, which means if you have a dedicated monitoring service, then it is somebody watching your village or town most of the time.
I get that.
And do you send information to anybody? I think you said you send it to the CPS rather than the police. Does it go anywhere else?
No.
Under any circumstances?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't go direct to the CPS. It goes to a system that's called police system. So a police officer would ask for a specific part of the footage. We'd get a time, maybe an hour slot and the area. And like I say, if we see the evidence we need, that gets uploaded straight into the police system. And whoever's authorised to view that footage on the case would obviously take it to CPS. We do not put any CCTV, whether it's snapshot or video, to the public or council because it is a licensable event.
Sorry, you broke up right at the beginning there on the critical bit when you were saying where you send the information to. Could you just repeat that?
So it goes to a DEM system, which is the police upload system. So it's only viewable by officers that have access to that system.
Mm.
And if nobody else is, if I'm not hogging the floor, another question for you. Who decides whereabouts within any particular location cameras are placed?
That's actually that can be decided as a group, really. For somewhere like Chearsley, we would come out, spend some time on site and discuss with the parish and even residents if they want to get involved as to what the best places would be. And we would be able to advise as to what you would be able to see on camera. That there's sometimes you have members of the public that don't want a certain area on camera, i.e. if there was a house close to the main road and there was bedroom windows, I can clearly see why that would want, somebody would want that not on CCTV. That's where we use technology to actually pixel out things like that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I'm conscious that that's we've got the full agenda, but I hope people feel that's a really good introduction to what I think I was trying to propose or trying to move forwards. And I know this is slowly catch a monkey in a way, but inevitably with what's going on in the world, these sort of things we need to really consider seriously. As I say, it wasn't until I spoke to Danny a couple of times now and saw the strength of his feelings and his colleagues about how useful this was. Hence the reason for inviting the guys tonight. I think, if I may say, Paul, and who's with Paul and?
It's James.
And James, hi James.
Hi.
I think that Paul and James, if you could drop me a line, or Helen in Longcrenn, our clerk, just with any other information you may have, and also an invitation. I'd love to come and see the control room and maybe talk a little bit more, and I'm sure one or two of my colleagues might want to do the same.
Sure. I think I think the way forward would be if we get a control room visit arranged.
Yeah.
That normally speaks for itself.
Right.
It is something where I would set up certain cameras into the control room. Obviously, due to data protection, we have to pick very carefully what cameras we can show. So I can certainly set something up for demonstration and show the way that we drive the control room.
Yeah, I think.
And then obviously you could come back with any questions, whilst you're on a visit, effectively.
Yeah.
Just
So,
one more.
Sorry.
Nick, if I can, just one more question just occurred to me, James, for you. What sort of vetting do you do of your staff?
Vetting of the staff is all done by the SIA, which is the Security Industry Authority. We generally only employ monitoring staff that have what we call a close protection license, i.e. sort of looking after VIPs. And the
again.
use that licensing is because I don't know if I cut off then or if you got that. Sorry.
You cut off.
VIPs, yeah.
Yeah. So it is the highest vetting available through the Security Industry Authority.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. So I'd just like to add before we move on. I think you mentioned Danny. Would that be Danny Fahy from Thames Valley Police?
Yeah.
So the way we're working with Thames Valley Police at the moment is we're quite well known because of the huge amount of cameras we have access to. And just recently they've started using us for missing persons. One in particular was Wadston about 4 weeks ago, where the Milton Keynes control room made contact with us and asked us to start searching on CCTV for somebody that was high risk. So it's not just crime prevention, it's proactive, and obviously it's getting busier and busier for us.
And, are there any sort of indicative costs, in terms of, obviously there's a setup cost, then there's OPEX, operational ongoing costs. So again, that could be, that obviously would be a key thing for us, as a follow-up, just to understand, before we got too far, maybe.
Certainly. Yeah, we'd spend the time with you first to see what is needed for Chearsley and surrounding areas. That just costs us time, and we don't charge the councils for us to come out and see what's best. Once we know and we're all on the same page of what's needed, I can then do a quote for the system. And equally, you could have a quote for buying blocks of downloads. And at that time, we would then discuss what cameras you may want monitored, if any at all, and what those costs would be.
Okay.
Great.
Okay, well,
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Jules.
Yeah, just a quick question. So if let's say theoretically somewhere has 7 cameras, for example, and then in one area in particular then becomes an ongoing problem, is it a flexible scheme? So you can say we could come to you and say, fine, we'd like area B to be monitored for a month, say, or do you have to do that for the whole of the term? Is it quite flexible in that respect?
It is flexible, and I'll be honest, the reason it's flexible is because we're still very new to the proactive monitoring, and the more we can do, the better. So right now we can do that. We do spend a lot of our time doing proactive response. We're a licensed dog handling service at the same time, which I mentioned to Nick many months ago. If you have areas like that, not only can we monitor the CCTV, but we can actually attend, where sometimes police are a little bit tied up these days, and just a security presence can sometimes help as well, which may be more cost effective than us watching a camera for a month and not be able to do a lot beyond that.
Okay. Well, Paul and James, thank you very much for your time this evening. I'm sure that's helped thinking move forward, and let's get into the next stage when we can hear from you again, and let's get that invitation out and visit and go from there if we could.
Yeah, that would be brilliant. I would look to try and book a visit after
the 3rd of December.
Yes, that's what he was going to say.
To see how fixed.
What?
We missed that, James.
Sorry, I said we'll try and get a date in the diary after the 2nd of December.
Yeah, that would be very wise. All right. Well, Paul, thank you very much for your time as well.
No, I hope it's been helpful.
Really helpful.
I know we've got lots still talking about with the surgery and everything, but I really appreciate your support on this as well.
Okay.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, James. Thanks, Paul.
Thanks. Take care.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
You're welcome to stay, by the way, if you want to hear the rest of the agenda.
I've already been in one meeting with Loch Crendon, so.
Thanks again, guys.
Yeah. I'm not sure. Are they filming us? Okay, thanks for your patience. Thanks for allowing that interjection. So planning, I've had no applications for planning come through, I've seen.
No.
No?
No, nothing.
You're a leave man, Paul.
Yeah.
Christmas is coming, there's no planning applications. Correspondence?
No, nothing that I'm aware of.
Contributions from Bucks County Council, I've mentioned that already. You should have the finance report in front of you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Robert's circulated the finance report to everybody. So I'll pop that in the minutes.
One of the things that did cross my mind, we upped the contribution to the Royal British Legion's wreath this year, because I think traditionally we've been paying 25. Helen?
I think when I first joined we paid 50, and then for some reason one year we only paid 25, and now we've gone back up to 50 again. I think the 25 was an anomaly for one year for some reason.
Okay.
Well, I don't know what councillors people feel about this, but I was going to recommend that we send another 100 to them, given they've had a pretty tough time this year raising funds, because obviously, for instance, in Chearsley, bless them when they did it, Jill Wright and Sue Grimsdale when she was here, lots of people used to come around, knock on the door, and we used to give them a 5 or a 10 or whatever. I just think it would be a nice gesture if we could send a cheque, an additional £100 towards the Legion. I don't know if anybody, how people feel about that.
I'd be agreeable to that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I can.
Anybody not comfortable with it? Right, Helen, if you could do a letter from me, please, or just, if you don't mind, just, but now just saying, you know, actually, I tell you what, I'll send you a note if you can put it to, what's his name, yeah? I can't remember his name now.
Ashley.
Ashley, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll do a letter from us and, you know, from Chearsley Parish Council, and I'll just indicate the reason for why we're doing this, to support the Legion during a difficult year. Not only financially, but I think obviously their members as well have been suffering through the COVID-19 too. Okay.
So Nick, you'll write a letter. I'll put it on headed paper. I'll
Yeah,
email it back to you because presumably you'll then send the cheque with the letter.
Yeah,
They only do cheques. They don't.
Okay, that's fine because I've got to raise a cheque at some stage for. Actually, I've got to raise a couple of cheques, haven't I, Anthony? One for Nigel for the gates, and there's another one I've got to do as well. Okay, that's fine. Okay. Any reports from councillors attending meetings in outside organisations?
Shall I say a few words about the freight group, Nick?
Yeah. Ah, you mean from the chairman?
Indeed.
The chairman of the freight group, Mr.
Well,
John
so you've
Lewis.
gone and stolen my first line already, haven't you? I've circulated information to all colleagues, so I guess you're all fairly familiar with this, but I think it's necessary to say a word or two for the sake of others listening. So this is the freight group of the Haddenham and Wadsden Community Board. The community boards are a new structure from the new Buckinghamshire Council, and they are designed as a prime method of communicating to the public as well as the parish councils, and also taking feedback from them. They set up a number of subgroups. The freight subgroup is set up to look at the impact of freight traffic. In fact, the objective is to eliminate the negative physical and environmental impacts of HGV traffic on the people, infrastructure and countryside of the community board area, whilst accommodating the legitimate interests of HGV operators. So I hope that just gives everybody an idea as to the purpose of this group and where it's going. As Nick mentioned, I was appointed chair a little while back, and we had a second meeting on the 2nd of November. That meeting was attended by, other than myself in the chair and Councillor Andrew Huxley from Bucks Council, it was attended by 6 other parish council members, including John here from Chearsley. The agenda was basically to look at some action points from the previous meeting, and also to try and take the work forward a bit. The main items were firstly agreeing the terms of reference. We then had a look at the idea of zones, and one of the approaches that we're adopting, and it's actually come from another group that's been set up. I won't go into the details of that, but a similar group has been established within Bucks Council. And out of that group, the idea of traffic zones has come up, zones being areas of the countryside, if you like, through which we are going to try and prevent heavy goods vehicles travelling by traffic exclusion orders, probably, if it comes to it, but hopefully initially by persuasion, certainly of heavy vehicle operators who are based in the area, and hoping to persuade them that it's in everybody's interest, including their own, to use main routes rather than country routes. So there's work going on defining those zones. We also had some input from quite a lot of parish councils providing details of the problems they're having with freight traffic. So that's part of an information gathering exercise, which is obviously fundamental to understanding the problem in detail and finding ways forward with it. Another thing that was mentioned was the very fact that we conduct traffic surveys in Chearsley. Mentioned for John as the leader of all of that. And there was general agreement that the method that we used, which has already been used by Cuddington, could become a county-wide method of carrying out these surveys. The next step will be for us to try and persuade a lot of people to do one on the same day to get some sort of coordinated survey going. But that's a little way ahead yet, I think. The other main item that came up was a report from Peter Spencer from Cuddington Parish Council, who is particularly concerned with the effect of farm traffic through Cuddington. I mean, we get quite a lot of it through Chearsley, but I think they get more than their fair share through Cuddington. And he had done a report which he addressed at the meeting, summarising the problem. So that's a quick canter through the meeting. The next meeting will be, I think, in 2 months' time, if I remember correctly. Do you remember the date of the next meeting, John?
I can't remember off the top, but
No.
yeah, a couple of
But
months.
there'll be time for me to advise everybody of when that's going to be. That's all. Thanks, Nick.
Thanks, John. Keith.
Yeah, I'm similarly on the safety subcommittee. It's all sort of overseen by the same person, Elaine Hassel. And this one's chaired by Ken Birkby, our neighbour in Cuddington. And basically that's summarised all our comments from the parish councils on speeding. That's gone to TVP as a summary of you know, our complaints, if you like, our concerns. We're sharing information using the speed indicator devices that many of us are starting to use, the SIDS, and they're fairly complex devices, so there's some good information sharing going around there. And the next meeting on that one is the 25th of November. So that's gathering steam and getting some useful standardization amongst the parish councils. So that's all from me on that.
Great. Thanks, Keith. Great. 2 good updates. Thank you. And well done on really getting stuck into some of these committees. It's going to be not only helpful, clearly, for us, but also for other folks too. I'm just mindful that I'm hoping Fenella's watching this evening. And hello, Fenella, if you are. That I did agree that in future, when we asked to agree something, we would show a vote by hands. And I didn't do that on the British Legion £100. So can I ask councillors, and John, you'll have to shout that you've got your hand up if you have, to show a hand if they're in support of the £100 to the British Legion.
That was me. My hand is up.
Thank you. So that's a unanimous yes. Thank you for that. I'm just trying to get protocols in line. Subcommittee decisions for ratification. I'm not sure there is anything needed at the moment. Helen?
Can't think of anything off the top of my head.
No, I can't either. Any other officers' reports? Anthony, anything else you'd like to add at all in terms of footpaths and signage?
No, we've obviously had 2 gates fitted over the last month or so on footpath 4, and it's just now trying to speak to landowners to see what other gates we can get fitted, basically.
I know that, yeah, for those who don't know, Anthony's now managed to get the gate that goes from the donkey field. So you go through the first gate, which is a bit rickety, but then they put the new post in, so it's fine. To the far post into Ann Pearson's field, that's all been replaced.
Yeah.
With a wooden gate, I think, isn't it?
It's a wooden gate, yeah.
Which is fantastic. So the access in and out now is much, much better.
Brilliant.
The only thing I think, Anthony, we will have to consider is going back to either Yvonne or possibly to Terry Gadsby, because that path continues to be a real quagmire in the weather. And maybe to Paul's point earlier, whether we could, if we were prepared to pay for the chippings, the wood chippings, would she allow us maybe to lay some wood chippings on that path?
Yeah,
I know what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking. So I'll put that down as a point for me to follow through.
Good man.
And then I'll drag you into it. So Helen, for the record, I'll talk to either Yvonne Edmonds or Terry Gadsby about firstly saying thank you, the gate's in, and brilliant, thanks for allowing us to do that. And by the way, would you mind if we were prepared and agreed, supported to put some form of covering down there, would you allow us to do that? Because it just makes a heck of a difference. I mean, we've seen obviously the Mike Haybrook field, the Rosedale fields, just what happens in the weather.
If they did agree to something, it might be worth speaking to the council again, because they might do something for us.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Okay. So, okay, Anthony, thank you. Ian, anything else to add, sir, with you?
No, I circulated the spreadsheets of the tree and verge surveys, which were done up to time. I went to hospital. I've had one or two comments back, but nothing further to report.
They were tremendous reports. I'm assuming everyone's read them or looked at them. I mean, they're talking about detail. It was brilliant. Is there much more to come, Ian, on that when you're up for it?
Well, obviously the green and a bit of Aylesbury Road, the Crendon Road, very short, the Winchenden Road and the Chiltern Road. I can sweep those up this autumn, hopefully.
Okay. Thanks, Ian. That's a really great plus to have all that information.
By sweep up, I'm assuming we don't mean the leaves as well.
Excuse me. Okay. We don't have any more officers online tonight, do we? No, because Robert's not here at the minute. We must consider at some stage whether we're going to invite our first junior officer at some stage to come and talk to us about eco things with young Bella Wall Morris. So fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Sid update from KT.
Sorry, Nick.
Oh, tree. What about tree and verge?
Oh, sorry, Paul.
Well,
I'm sorry. I'm assuming Ian. Sorry.
No, it's all right. Very, very briefly, the work which I said would be carried out during the course of November will in fact now be done on the 3rd and 4th of December. So that's the 5 or 6 items, including the removal of the walnut tree. Apparently 4 Seasons have been absolutely rushed off their feet with emergency work. I guess that's with the storms and things, which has put all their programs back. So that work will be done. And secondly,
so that's the 3rd, is it?
The 3rd and 4th.
Okay.
And secondly, just to let you know that Tom Audley is now finished for the year. It was actually 2 sessions short of what we originally agreed, but he started slightly late, and we've been monitoring it on a sort of week-by-week basis, and mutually decided, in fact, there wasn't much more to be done now before the winter. But I was just interested, actually, in people's feedback on this, because I've had some great comments from around the village, and I think he seems to have made quite a significant difference in only 5 visits, I think.
Yeah.
But it's amazing what can be achieved in 2 or 3 hours if it's very specific and focused. So I don't know if there's any comments there from anybody, plus or minus.
No, I think it looks very good, Paul.
Yeah, okay. Very positive. Looks much tighter.
Good. Okay.
Well, there's some nice looking verges appearing.
Yeah, well, I think that's really what we're trying to achieve. Because obviously we've always had the focus on the green with the work that Graham's done. So it's really nice to get the bottom lanes with some work done on it. Obviously we've got the budget meeting coming up, but just in case I forget, what we've agreed provisionally with him is that he'll be working from March to October once every 3 weeks. So I'll make sure that the figures that are put forward as a budget proposal reflect exactly that. And that's the work, the same as the programme which he does in Dinton, which seems to work very well apparently.
Cool.
So that's it really. That's the tree and verge matters. Ongoing.
Great. Thanks, Paul. Brilliant, brilliant. It looks really good. Really good.
No trees down in the storm, so you know,
yeah,
making some progress.
Yeah, that's true.
SID update then, KT.
Okay, I've been keeping you up to speed with the more detailed reports, and I will publish those so the village can see them with online links. So that's on my kind of my big to-do list. So I'll try and get that done this week. But summary, definitely anecdotally, it's been slowing down traffic, but I figured out how to turn on this entry speed, this exit speed setting. So I've just sent out a report tonight where the average entry speed is still quite high. It was 40. It's come down by 1 mile per hour to 39, but the speed as the cars go past the monitoring display is down to 32, which is really noticeable because, you know, as you see, and cars are coming in from 60, to be fair. Up at 30. So that it seems to have made, and I've had some anecdotal feedback. Dave Thomas, for example, said, you know, very noticeable from where he is, the traffic speed has slowed down. Today there was some feedback from somebody about saying, you know, they wanted red displays and green. So I've managed to get that done today, and it'll be interesting. And it is quite dramatic when you look at from now, instead of just all being amber, it's green if it's good, red if it's speeding. It'll be interesting to see if that produces a further drop down.
Yeah.
The other thing is the additional mounting brackets. Everyone approved. Thank you very much. Have arrived today, so we can, you know, in collaboration with you all, just work out where those are going to go, so we can start moving it around. But it's been quite good experimenting with it just in one position while I'm just getting up to speed with all the settings before we move it around to the next location. I want to press Colin Woolford. If you ask him, Nick, when you see him, about progress on the post for...
Yeah, I noticed the one outside ours was not up.
Exactly. So he's been very busy, etc., etc. So
yeah, okay.
That would be something to, you know, that would be the only reason I'd want to speak to him. But, you know,
we'll nail him on Thursday, John.
Yeah, if you speak to him on Thursday about that.
Yeah.
I'm potentially available. I've got some other meetings maybe, but just give me a ring if need be.
Yeah.
And I am sending these reports to the Thames Valley Police. You know, obviously, we're still getting the odd car that's going at sort of 75, 73, usually late evening. Now, again, just a caveat, I don't know if that's a police car or an ambulance. So to be fair, that's why it's kind of interesting if we get some, you know, if there's a persistent speeder and we get linked up with CCTV, for example, the police can then, you know, potentially deal with this maybe. Anyway, so that's just a thought linking that to the CCTV. But anyway, so very positive response so far. You know, I still need to, you know, put out some more training material for other people to take over, just taking the readings and producing the report when it's all settled down. But so far it feels very, very positive. It's having a very positive effect, and it'd be really interesting to then move it to some other locations and see the benefits on those entrances as well.
Are we still looking to progress the latest version that comes out in December as a second edition?
So that's the one with GPRS. So there's two things. One is as long as you've got a good signal, then it can upload automatically. Downloading the data is not a big thing, to be honest, because it takes seconds. At the moment, we have to go to it to replace the battery anyway. So if you combine it with replacing the battery, then you might as well do a download of data. But that's potential. You know, I can put those options forward. That GPRS edition is coming, is just being certified, so it'll be available in the new year. It does decrease the battery life to more than 3 or 4 days. Currently, it goes happily for 8-9 days before you swap the battery. Potentially we can put a solar panel on it, but again, those are sometimes targets for bad-minded people. Again, if you had CCTV, that would be interesting if people are stealing it. Anyway, so there's a few potential options as we learn more, but so far, and again, I can seeing the effect from where I am. Obviously, it's outside my house. It's very noticeable that it's having a positive effect.
No, thanks, Keith, for all your work.
Very good. Well done.
Thank you.
And it's been recognised by quite a few people in the village, and I don't know what we'd have done without you on this one, as with other things you do. But I do want to keep this bubbling away about this second device. I think that having spoken to God knows how many folks about this in the village, there's a big groundswell of support for having a sort of an entry and exit and an entry on this, particularly this rat run that we all know about. And it would be quite valuable, I think, being able to measure both ends of the exit and entry. So, but let's see how this new piece of kit performs whilst we're just monitoring this other piece, and maybe looking to sort of January, possibly adding to the the units.
Yep.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. John Lewis, Road Junction update.
Thanks, Nick. So those with longish memories will recall that the last time that the subject of the Horse Chestnut Junction work with the Parish Council was back January or February this year, I think. And at that point, we all agree, we'd seen the report from the consultants, and we had agreed which of the options that they had suggested we thought we preferred. The step after that was to see how we kicked the work off and to start worrying about how it was going to be paid for. Since then, John and I have had some discussions with Transport for Bucks, informal discussions about the junction, standing there looking at pictures and stroking our chins as to the art of the possible. But again, the end of that conversation was TFB can't really do a great deal more for us until such time as we know how the whole thing might be funded. And our task was then to look at applying for a grant from Bucks Council. That wasn't possible earlier in the year because Bucks Council hadn't got its act together on exactly how these things were going to work, since it only came into being in April of this year. But a couple of months back, we learned of the process for applying for grant funding through the community board. Unfortunately, what we learned at the same time was that applications for funds for next financial year, that's the 21-22 year, for this sort of work had to be completed by the end of October. I think this was about the middle of September, I was told this, which meant we had to get an application together rather quickly. Now, that wasn't a big problem, I was able to do it, but as part of that application, it was necessary to indicate how much money the parish council would be willing to contribute on what they call a matched funding basis. Now, the parish councillors and others listening may recall that over the last couple of years, the parish council has been gradually putting together a sort of a ring-fenced fund, knowing that this eventuality might eventually arise, so that we would be in a position to contribute some money if and when that became appropriate. So that time has arrived, or had arrived, mid-October, and it was necessary for us to agree and to state how much money we would be willing to put into the pot. That came after the last parish council meeting. In fact, I wasn't even at the last one and couldn't have raised it anyway. So again, for the benefit of our audience listening, what I did was to speak to all parish councillor colleagues and see how they felt about making a contribution and indeed committing to make such a contribution on the application form. And everybody was in agreement to the sum that I proposed, which was £25,000. So the first thing I need to do this evening is to ask that that is formally recorded in the minutes, or before that, I think, Nick, I should invite you to take a formal vote confirming that we're all in favour of that.
So all those in favour of that was communicated, please raise their hands. That's unanimous.
Yes.
Unanimous.
So that application did go in that sum. It's got to wend its way through a deal of process now within Bucks Council and Transport for Bucks. What I've been told informally is that a number of councillors have already looked at our application. These are councillors on the community board, that they're the ones that would ultimately have to say yes or no. They felt it was a strong application in terms of what it was asking for and why it was asking for it, supported by some strong and good supporting information, not least the option study that we had done 18 months ago. And on that basis, they were content for it to go forward to Transport for Bucks for a feasibility analysis, which is the next step, without going through the formal community board to approve that, which is what we'd expected to happen. So that's the next step. It will go to TFB. My full expectation, since we've already spoken to Pete Smythe from TFB about it, he was the person I mentioned earlier on, he thinks it's entirely viable and feasible and likes the option that we had identified. So I'm not expecting there to be any great difficulty with TFB. If it comes back from them as feasible, then it goes back to the community board for final approval of funding. The small wrinkle there is that the idea was originally this was going to be on a matched funding basis. So I was expecting to ask the community board to put £25,000 in along with ours. Now the entire scheme is going to cost, we don't know what yet, that will come out of the TFB analysis work when they look at it. I have sort of plucked, not quite out of the air, but based on the option study we had done, I've been using a figure of about £130,000 for this work. That's not the figure for option 3 in the study, but option 3 included a lot of additional optional work, which I think we don't necessarily need to have done. But when I spoke to the community board coordinator, that's Elaine, it became clear that the balance that I had thought would come from the infrastructure fund, based on the information I've been given, actually is also a pot that's controlled by the community board. So instead of asking for them to provide £25,000, effectively we're asking, if 130 is the right figure, for them to provide £105,000 out of both their transport fund and their infrastructure fund combined. So it's just different pots. There was a bit of an intake of breath when the reality of that struck her, but nevertheless she said, well, she didn't say the money's got to be spent on something, but she did say, well, it was a strong application. I still think it's very feasible that it will go through, and we'll push it through the system and see what happens. So that's where we stand at the moment, and we need to wait and see what the community board thinks about it when it eventually does come back to them.
Thanks, John. I mean, again, some fantastic work by JL on this. And because of his chairmanship and one or two other things with transport for bucks and HGVs, freight, etc., we're in a very strong position. And I think we're building up a really strong case, which is acknowledged by some fairly senior people in the county council and elsewhere. And this is, I think, John's going to be really valuable to us over the coming months in terms of people taking this incredibly seriously, because we're able to talk in a very balanced, professional and informative way. And that's worth its weight in gold. So thank you for all that work. I think we're really on the road with this. Okay.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Keith.
Just for the viewers, John H, I think your virtual background is
I can see. I don't know how to do it.
I don't know how to turn it off. Okay, right.
I think, yeah, sort of like a Cyberman.
It's, yeah.
It's on the stop video menu, John, if you want to click that. It's got background on there.
It's a little arrow up and it says choose virtual background.
Yeah, you're okay now.
That's it.
Perfect.
You're a bit blue there, John. But anyway, nice to have you back out of quarantine. And putting you back into the allotments. Most enjoyable. Parishioners' question time. Anything come in on the wire at all, Helen?
No, nothing.
Nothing on
had any emails from parishioners or okay. Items for information. Keith, can I start with you, sir?
Yeah. So as you already mentioned, Bella Wall Morris, young eco warrior in Chearsley, circulated around her initial PowerPoint on some simple eco measures that residents can take. Also on my list is to put that on the blog. I need to do that this week as well. Derek Allen, the old bakery, was going to take that another level forward. He's been liaising with some other PCs at their request. So he was going to put some further suggestions and suggested actions that households could do. For example, somebody in the village is removing their oil-fired heating and actually putting in an air source heat pump and underfloor heating. There are, it actually pays for itself with grants if you've got sufficient insulation over sort of something like 7 years or something. So there's some schemes that some initial upfront money, etc., but you can get government grants for. So anyway, so Derek is helping putting a package of stuff together that we can put forward on the blog. And also discuss as part of what ongoing things we can contribute from a village point of view to a greener agenda. So that was what. John, were you going to mention the OCE?
Just to say, I sent a note round to everybody. The National Expressway. The No Express
Oxford Cambridge Express
group, seem to be cranking themselves up again now. There is no immediate pressure on the Oxford and Cambridge Expressway has been paused, but it's not been kicked into touch properly yet. So we need to keep very vigilant. And I think the other thing is that there is still the Oxford-Cambridge ARC housing proposals and algorithms here, there and everywhere. Currently, the figure is between 1 and 1.2 million additional houses in the Oxford-Cambridge ARC, and that is clearly something we need to keep up to speed with. But I think all of us who are involved with the No Expressway group, their activities culminated in the visit to Downing Street in February. They're a good, very committed group. I mean, obviously, things have gone a little bit into neutral gear because of COVID, and also the fact that the project does seem to have been parked for the minute. But we should certainly keep close to them.
Just to add to that, John, I'm going to try and get on there's two virtual calls this week, one chaired by is it Barry Wood, Councillor Barry Wood of Cherwell, who's very pro development, very pro the expressway, very pro building.
Yeah, I know he is.
So I'm going to listen into that, because having read their prospectus, it doesn't say explicitly, but reading between the lines, it's definitely talking about adding infrastructure. I think railway, that's a great idea, no question about it. But the housing and the expressway, so I think it's rearing its head again.
Yeah.
And so that's one call I'll report back on if I can make. And then there's another one, another ARC meeting that you circulated later on this week. So I'm going to try and tap in.
Likewise, I'll try and the ones I can manage too. And just, as I say, we need to keep an eye on it. And thanks for that, Keith.
Okay, thanks, Keith. I'm just going through councillors first. So Martin.
Just meant to mention when we were talking about drains that I came across the other day when I was clearing out some old files. I don't know whether you remember last year you asked me to do an audit of where the drains were in the village. And I've still got a map of Chearsley marked up with drains, if that's going to be of any use for Thursday's meeting.
I think it would be very useful. Sorry, there's another phone ring. I think it would be a very useful document if you could let us have it for Thursday.
Yep, sure.
Yeah.
We have also had a map from Colin.
And what? Sorry.
We've had a map from Colin Wilford as well. So
right.
I'll when you circulate yours,
I'm on a conference call.
Yep. Okay.
With the parish council, and so is Niche. So can we call you back? Thanks, buddy. Thank you. Bye bye. Sorry, that's just Australia. Sorry.
Yep, no problem. All right, I'll
yeah, that would be great, Martin. Thank you.
I'll scan that and email it around. Then everybody's got a copy.
Thanks, Martin. Councillors, John Howard.
Yes, I did. I sent an email. Probably a week, 10 days ago, and our St Nicholas Church have now want to progress building a crib to go next to our Christmas tree on the green, and they will be progressing with that project. They were a little bit concerned about asking permission. I presume that nobody would have concerns about a wooden crib being constructed next to the Christmas tree. Would they?
No.
No.
Show of hands. All those in support of a crib by the Christmas tree, raise their hands. Thank you.
Right, and now the next bit. As you probably know, the church funds are not in terrific shape at the minute, and they were asking if it was possible. Maybe we don't yet know what the cost is going to be of this. Colm Henry has very generously agreed to. He's going to project manage it with some help from around the village. But if it was possible to give a little bit of financial help, I think it is something that the whole of our community would benefit from, we although it's difficult to give an idea of costs, I was wondering if we could say maybe provisionally reserve maximum £100 towards the construction of this project, and in fact all they will do is send us what it actually costs. It may not cost as much as that, but in the absence, the planning is still at an early stage, but I think it is the intention to make a very nice looking thing that I think would, definitely add a little bit of Christmas cheer to our community. So could I
thoughts? Yep. Thoughts from councillors?
Happy to support.
Yeah.
I would, if that's the order of costs, I would be happy to say, subject to some sort of ceiling, that we will pay what it takes. If it's going to take £120, let's pay that.
Well, I think it's going to be people's efforts. It'll probably be mainly wood and paint and materials and things like that. It's not, the final thing hasn't been designed, but I think they've had a look at a few ideas from the from the internet. But
so, shall we say, for the purpose of moving on, John, I think it's a lovely idea, and I've got a date for the Christmas tree, which I'll share with people. Should we set a ceiling for now of £150? And for those of in favour, a show of hands. virtual hand, John?
Is that me or the other John?
No, I can see John's.
Yeah, but Mr. Lewis had his hand up.
John
Yeah.
put his left one
Okay,
up.
so we've agreed 150 for
Yeah.
a crib, and
Yeah. Thank you.
I
Thank you
think,
very
I
much.
mean, that if they're looking around for three wise men, John Howard, I'm not sure whether you're going to be up for it, but we may have a go.
Well, you certainly won't, Mr. Chairman.
Well, no, I wasn't putting my name in the frame, John. To believe you me, Okay.
Thank you very
Lovely.
much indeed. I'll
Lovely.
communicate that.
Jules?
No,
No. Okay.
nothing from me.
Paul?
Nothing from me.
John Lewis?
Nothing really, just a reminder that we are meeting tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock, I think, yeah, to take forward our discussions on the junction in informal session for anybody who's listening. So it's a proposed meeting.
Right, okay. Just a date for your diaries. The Christmas tree, although I think, Jules, you're managing to get it for the end of November, we're looking to actually put it up on the green on the 5th of December because of, as we know. But I mean, I did think that we could have tried to have done it earlier as part of essential services for the mental well-being of our residents and a bit of inspiration and a bit of colour. But there's a general view that maybe let's do the right thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So all those in favour of the 5th of December, raise their hands. Thank you very much. And then no, I have got a bunch of people already lined up, but if any of the folks on the call tonight would like to join us, it will be going up at time-wise, good lord.
What about 11:30, Nick?
Sorry?
11:30 a.m.
I think it was 11:30, yeah. Yeah, 11:30.
What day was that again, Nick? Sorry.
5th of December. Yeah, and that's all I've got to add, except to say, as we've got in the agenda, we need to agree now the meeting, our next meeting, and we've got this really the budget meeting, the budget setting meeting, and I'm just thinking, I can't remember, remind me how we did it last year, John. Did we have a separate budget meeting?
We did. We had sort of an offline meeting ourselves to thrash through what we wanted to do. And then we took the results of that for formal agreement at the budget setting meeting. I think we're in a better place this year because we've already agreed the programme of work that we want. But I don't know what others think. My suggestion would be that we do have an offline meeting to put some numbers on that. Agree what we think the budget should be, including a proposed precept, and then bring that back to a meeting either in December or potentially in January, whichever we think.
So have you any thoughts about when we should have that budget meeting, John?
What, the first one you mean, the offline one? Not really. I would have thought we can probably do it in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Sort of end November, beginning December sort of time.
Yeah.
So if we take into lockdown, it's week commencing the 7th, really, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, we could do it that week, and then if you want, we could have a short PC meeting on the 14th to ratify.
Does everyone feel comfortable with that? If we set some offline, offline, a Zoom, whatever, on the, say, the 7th or the 8th, and then a quick budget parish council on the 14th.
I won't be able to make the 14th because I have Shabbington on the second Monday of the month.
Okay. I'm loath to go any further into December with people's commitments for Christmas, because then that will be the 21st. Do we need to have it on the 14th, John?
Does it need to be a specific day of the week?
That's right. Yeah.
No, I said, does it need to be?
No, well, we've said before we don't really want to veer away from Mondays, but I don't have a problem with veering away from a Monday.
I think for this that's going to be a very specific, very short meeting. If we agree the date now so others know when it's going to be, I can't see there's a problem with that personally.
What about the 15th of December for the PC ratification?
Can't do the 15th.
How people fix that week? What's the 16th and 17th look like?
Okay with me.
Okay,
Both
for
fine.
me.
Both fine.
So 16th,
Oh,
Tuesday.
but I don't know what I'm doing yet.
16th. That's a Wednesday. That's a bad day for you, Julia. I think, isn't it, at the moment?
No,
Wednesday.
sorry, I meant the. Oh yeah, sorry, the 16th. Yeah.
I won't know for a couple of weeks.
Okay.
Shall
I'm
we?
afraid.
Shall we go for it for now? Jules can always have an input from what's circulated.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't commit to a date.
No. Shall we say the 16th?
Sorry, I beg your pardon. I can't make the 16th.
Okay.
Can we not push up earlier? Move everything ahead by a week? Because, you know, we have the first meeting even in lockdown because people will have less crowded diaries, I would have thought.
I just want to, you know, given Robert's situation, I'm trying to leave him alone as long as I can.
Sure.
How about if we came forward to the Thursday the 10th with a view to having our informal meeting Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday that week? Does that work for anybody?
Yeah, that works with me.
Works for me.
So Thursday,
the 10th.
Yep, that's okay.
Is the Parish Council?
I can do the 10th.
Pardon?
I can do the 10th.
Right.
Okay, that's good.
I mean, I assume people can't do during the day at all on Mondays and Tuesdays. It's just for me, I'm going to have been at work all day and then I've got to come home, sort my kids and then do this. I am going to struggle, if I'm honest, if it's a Thursday. So I don't get home till 5:30 and I've got 3 children to sort out. Thursday nights are not particularly good for me, if I'm honest.
Very happy during the day, personally.
And me.
Me too.
And me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does that suit you better, Helen?
Around it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm available Mondays and Tuesdays, but Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I work full time, so I can't really be working all day and then working in the evening as well. It's just too much with looking after my kids and being on my own.
So Helen can't do the Thursday anyway.
Yeah.
I can do Mondays and Tuesdays. I'm around Mondays and Tuesdays anytime, but obviously I can't do the evening of the 14th.
Tuesday, 2 o'clock.
Tuesday, what, the 8th or the 15th?
Tuesday the 8th, 2 o'clock.
Good for me.
Just throwing something to the ring.
Yeah.
Yep.
But what's this for? Because we're going to do the offline budget those 2 days possibly.
Well, could we not?
Is that on the Monday during the day, maybe?
Well,
Yeah.
as long as we can pull it all together.
Yeah, that's true.
Or the Friday, 4th? No. Actually, we're out of lockdown, aren't we, then?
We had this problem last time, didn't we?
I'm keen if we could have the first meeting in lockdown, but by the end of lockdown, just before the end of lockdown, because things are going to get busy once we're out of lockdown.
Yeah.
Well, it's fine having the meeting before the end of lockdown, but that means we've got to have the budget numbers before that as well. So,
And I think, as you mentioned, Nick, the later we can leave it to give Robert maximum chance to be back on his feet would be useful. I know it's not essential. I'm sure you would say that if he were here, but it would be good to give him as much chance as possible.
Did we actually do the budget numbers last year in December? Or did we do it in the first week of January?
I think we did it before Christmas. I think we went around to your place, didn't we, Keith?
Yes. That's right, yeah.
Well, we're struggling a bit here. I mean, this hinges on what we're going to propose for expenditure, aren't we?
Yeah.
And I'm wondering whether should 2-3 people, whoever they want to be, have this offline very quickly meeting to decide what it is that they think we should spend, and then put it to people fairly rapidly thereafter.
I would be happy with that, but it depends how others feel who might not be able to make it.
I think anything will be circulated, obviously, so everyone will have visibility and be able to comment. And if anyone had any serious objections, we'd have to, that required a discussion, then we'd have to arrange it.
And actually, if we had that offline meeting with whoever on the 7th or the 8th, that gives the 9th to consolidate the numbers. And then on the 10th, actually, do we need to have Helen there anyway? Because if it's a short meeting, ratifying the budget officially, plus some points, probably we can take the notes ourselves.
Yes, for me.
I think so. I'm not sure whether there's any rules that say you can't have a parish council meeting without a parish clerk present, but
you could have a surrogate one. I could be a parish clerk for the night. Keith could be a parish clerk.
Yeah, the rules are any of us can be the parish clerk in the event of the parish clerk not being available. So, but
yeah,
we can't be paid. That's the only rule.
Oh, really?
Well, that's it then. I'm not going to do it.
Oh, blimey.
Any of us can do that. And if we keep it short, there's not lots and lots of stuff.
So
I think that's the answer then.
We can have an offline 7th of December meeting, or the 8th, 7th or 8th, and then on the 10th we'd have a parish council meeting to ratify the budget.
Yep.
Does that
7th or 8th?
Yeah.
Tuesday the 8th is better for me. I'm away on the 7th.
So Tuesday the 8th. Does Tuesday the 8th? Who wants to be involved in the budget offline discussions? Keith, John Lewis, John Howard, Martin Herman, Jules. I think we might stand down, Paul. No, Paul as well. I might stand down myself, actually. There's enough people to sink a battleship, never mind a budget.
I think we've got it then. So we got the offline on the 8th and the meeting on the 10th with Helen excused.
Yep.
So as long as it's during the day on the 8th, because there's the highways and road safety meeting in the evening for me.
Likewise, it's also my wife's birthday, and as we're out of lockdown, I should be doing something.
So on the 8th,
I should stop there, Paul, if I were you.
What time during the day, John? So we say 2 o'clock afternoon?
Yep.
Yep, I've got that
Is
in.
there any chance we could do 1:30?
Oh,
please?
God. Yeah. Anything. Yep. 1:30.
Yes,
Yep.
please.
Yep.
Yeah. Until when, Jules? About 15:43 or 44, maybe?
I have a school pickup at 2:45, but if I have to leave early, that's okay, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm
So,
not
John-
pivotal to decision making.
So, John, before that offline, are we going to then agree, or are you going to put forward a paper, a spreadsheet with, because we need something to talk about, don't we?
Yeah, I'll stick something out. I'll either stick some numbers out of my head on it, or I'll just put some headings on and a gap for us to write numbers in on the
Or
day.
just some headings and some crude numbers that
Yeah.
we can just, I mean, this will be about the principle of what we want to do.
Yes.
If we want to agree, if we want to do something, then it's a question of we can look at the costs thereafter.
Yes. Yeah.
And then from that, maybe a bit of a sort of a melange of numbers and words that we feel is the bones of the budget, which we can take forward for ratification in principle on the Thursday.
I'm really sorry, but I'm going to have to go because I've got to go and collect my daughter from work. So,
Okay.
is that okay? I think we've pretty much done. I can watch the end of it on YouTube. Sorry.
Yeah.
Right.
No, we're done. Yeah.
Okay.
We're done. I think we're
But
done.
have you got those dates, Helen?
Yeah, so Thursday the 10th of December and week commencing the 7th of December at the beginning of the week for the other meeting, the offline one.
No, the 8th.
Tuesday the 8th at
1:30.
And the
Right,
time
Tuesday the
for
8th at 1:30 and Thursday the 10th. Have you got a time for Thursday the 10th?
7:30.
7:30, I suppose.
7:30.
Right, okay. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Helen.
Brilliant. Thanks, Helen.
Cheers. And so, Nick, because it'll be good to get some indicative costing around the CCTV if that's going to be a prospective potential.
Yeah, I can ask the guys to give me a ballpark number.
We just need some kind of ballpark.
Yeah.
If it's going to be a goer.
Okay. And then we've got Monday the 18th of January at 7:30. And I'm not quite sure what we're doing about our Christmas dinner, but we'll have to worry about that later.
Yeah.
And the award ceremony. I don't know what we're going to do.
Well, we should be able to squeeze it in by March.
Yeah, I hope so. Right, officers. Anthony, anything else to add, sir, from items?
Nick, can I just butt in here? I've got about 1% left on my battery. I'm going to duck out. So I've got.
All right.
That's okay.
Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers, Paul.
Anything, Anthony, to add?
No.
Okay. Ian Houseman?
Just a short pointer. I attended some Bucks and Oxton Wildlife Trust seminars this summer, and also some Institute of Agricultural Management, of which I'm a member still, about wilding parishes and natural capital. And I think the parish council is going to have to take this on board as a serious issue. Never mind trees and verges survey. I think a lot of issues coming to the fore, which includes, for example, carbon neutral and other issues like that, which I think the parish council is going to have to take more cognizance of in future.
Okay.
I'm happy to have a follow-up call with you, Ian, and just explore that a bit more to see how that can work in with some of the stuff Derek has taken on to help us with, just to understand it a bit better. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you very much indeed for this evening. Very productive, and I think that's it for now. So if anybody's still with us on YouTube, thank you for watching. You can always do catch-up TV with YouTube. Just put in Chearsley Parish Council meetings and you can catch up with all the news you may have missed. And thank you to my colleagues, all the hard work they put in, and I look forward to seeing you all very shortly around the green, hopefully with the door of the bell open.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Great.
Take care, everybody.
Cheers.
Okay, thanks, Nick.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye, everybody.